Hi, this is Liza Graves and with Style Blueprint, and I'm here with Hannah Paramore Breen. She is the author of the book Business Ownership: The Joy, the Pain, the Truth. She formerly owned an agency that she sold 3 years ago, and right now, as a business owner, Hannah, I'm super jealous that you are not having to go through this. There's a lot of pain here, but I understand and I know that you did go through a ton of pain in 2008, 2009. And as a business owner, I'm leaning on your experience, and I know a lot of people who will be watching this need to lean on that experience too. Could you tell us some of what you went through and how that applies to today?
Sure, and you have been on my mind. I mean, all business owners, small business owners in particular, have been on my mind for the last few weeks because it is an unprecedented time, of course. And but, the recession of 2008, 2009, really into 2010 was a tough time too. And at that point, my business was only 6 or 7 years old, and we were a digital agency, which was a new sort of industry during that time. And so at first, we didn't feel the recession for a good while. I would say a good year and a half or so into it before we really started to feel the effects of it. And then the effects were not really obvious. They were pretty subtle at first. And I think that actually might be similar. I'm sure there are some industries still in this time right now that are still doing okay. We were just talking about construction. Construction is still going
Yep.
on. The grocery industry, my God, I mean, there's nothing on the shelves. They're selling everything they can get their hands on. I mean, stuff that people didn't normally buy, the
Right.
stuff that you like see always full on the shelf is gone now, like sardines, I mean, but there are no sardines out there. Um, but anyway, so I'm sure there are some industries that are at least okay, maybe some that even thrive. That's always the case. Even in the Great Depression, makeup and alcohol, were the two industries, and tobacco were the industries that did really well. I mean, they were fine because we want to
Right.
look good, and our vices are our vices no matter what's going on. So,
Yeah.
um, but so it was slow hitting us, but it was because the industry was so new, and people were experimenting so much with how to do advertising cheaper, and which digital at the time was cheaper. But when it did stop by our business, the thing that I noticed was that we didn't get a yes, but we didn't get a no. And there's a saying, it used to be in real estate prominently, and probably in all kinds of business, that the best answer is yes, but the second best answer is a really quick no.
I agree, because then you don't waste your time tracking them down
Right.
over and over again.
That's right. And you don't keep staff that you can't afford to keep.
Yep.
So when the clients would say, yes, we want to do the project, but we're going to be a little delayed, we're not going to be able to start until next quarter. Well, you think you've gotten a yes, but you really haven't gotten a yes. So that delay is what keeps companies keeping their employees on the bench when they don't really have enough work for them. And what I found out is that some of those maybes, some of those delayed yeses did come through, but many of them did not. Because a lot happens in business during a crisis, and a lot happens in business anyway. I mean, people change their minds. So, the best thing to do when you're in sales, as soon as you get the yes, you leave the room, right? You get the signature, you leave the room, right? You don't keep talking about it because you don't want to give somebody a chance to change their mind. So that is, the limbo is death to a small business. Because again, you can't make decisions and pivot your business because you think you've got business coming in, So that was a big learning. Another thing that I learned is that one of the positives of a crisis like this is that it makes you look at your business in a different way, and you find efficiencies that you wouldn't have found.
Yep.
So when we're in a time of prosperity, we are just overall in a time of expansion. So we add staff because we can, not necessarily strategically, but because we can. We put more activities into our business, more culture building activities, which I'm not slamming culture building activities at all, but enough is enough. And we do more things. We spend money we shouldn't spend because we have it.
Right.
You know, And so when you have to take a hard look at your business, you start to question things that you really should question. You know, there was a time during that time period when I walked by a lady 3 times in my office and I couldn't remember her name any of those 3 times. And I went to her boss and I said, we obviously don't need her because I can't remember her name. And that was just a small example of how we had expanded, to the point that we had people that I wasn't connected to and whose function I couldn't remember, so, it makes you take a look at staff a different way. We all, the staff is guilty of this as well as business owners, the thing called the work spread syndrome, where the work expands to fill the time that you have to give the work.
Right.
That happens in times of prosperity.
Yeah.
You're not made to be lean and mean when you're prospering. So you will find efficiencies. You'll decide that there are certain types of business you don't want to do anymore. It makes you look at that. The magic mix between a service provider and their client is the relationship. That, if the relationship is good, you can weather almost anything together. But sometimes you take a client that is profitable, but the relationship isn't good. And it's only in times of stress that you're like, why am I spending this time?
Yeah. Yep.
So it makes you think about which clients you should be working with, more strategically. And then the last thing that I would learn that I would want to share right now is to not lose heart, because business does come back. Sometimes it's more slowly, sometimes it's different business, but business does come back. So we're a country, maybe we're a world that's geared toward moving forward.
Right.
That's the reason that we strive. Even when we're doing well, we strive because we want to continue to move forward. So your business might look different on the other side of this. That could be a good thing, but it will come back in some shape. Those were my main learnings from that time period.
Yeah, I know at our business, we're definitely taking time right now to say, where do we want to be in 2 years? And let's make sure those decisions we're making right now bring us there.
Yeah. And, one of the things that I read yesterday, which I had not read yet about the coronavirus, is that they're thinking that there are signs right now that it could be cyclical. So it could be that, it tapers off in the summer and it comes back in the winter. So what do we do to reinvent our businesses, so that when it comes back the next time, we're not so shocked by it and we're more prepared to work in the way that we're working right now.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had technology for a while, right? But now we're pushed to really embrace working from home, which I personally don't love, but it is a business continuation strategy. And we have all this. So that's another thing that, most people put off is what is your business continuation strategy in a crisis? You're not going to deal with that when you're not in a crisis.
No, and who could have ever imagined a crisis like this? I mean, one where the faucet was turned on and then it turned off at once. It didn't trickle down. There was no, I think in 6 months, this might be an issue for us. It went from one day to the next day.
Right.
And that is,
that's probably the most shocking thing about it to me, is how quickly everything can unwind, because it does demonstrate how interconnected we all are. Even the guy who is the valet attendant at a restaurant next door to my condo downtown, he doesn't have a job right now. He doesn't have a job. He's not out on the street, greeting people, because there aren't any people to greet. And of course, the restaurant is closed. I mean, it trickles down to everybody. It's not just, it's not just knowledge workers. It's everybody. And the fabric of our society is so interconnected that it's like that game of Jenga, when you can take out a few little pieces of wood and be fine, but you take out one critical piece of wood and the whole thing crumbles.
The whole thing falls.
Yeah.
So for many business owners right now, because I've talked to a lot of business owners in the past 2 weeks, And one thing that comes up time and time again is their employees.
Mhm.
And they want to care for their employees right now. And they're trying to figure out what's the best way to care for their employees. Is it the best thing to furlough an employee so that they can get some of the new unemployment insurance that's out there? Is it best to keep them on? What's best for the company? And they're struggling. They're going through all the figures. You know, as you went through this crisis yourself, do you have any advice for business owners in particular with their employees right now?
Yeah, sure. And this is the hardest part, obviously, because usually, especially if you're a small business owner, you're working with people that you like and that you care about. Some of them you may
Yes.
love, you know. It's not like a company of thousands of people where you have compassion for people, but you don't know each one of them personally. In a small business, you know them personally. You know the names of their dogs. You were probably at their weddings, you know their children. So it's hard, but if you want the business to survive and come out on the other side and still be a business, then your lens as the business owner needs to be what's best for the business.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I learned, not necessarily in the recession, but when I lost some major clients, because I lost 2 big clients within 2 years of each other. And that was the most stressful time of the business period, just hands down the most stressful time. And after the loss of the first one, I did not lay off staff. And that was a mistake. I had to after the second one because we had not rebuilt the business, after the loss of the first one. We were still profitable, but we had not replaced that single big client. We were still closing business, but there's a big difference in closing. I mean, the same dollar amount split up among a whole bunch of clients rather than coming from one client is much more inefficient, so you know what I mean?
I hear that loud and clear.
Yeah. So when you haven't replaced that really big client, and then you lose another really big client, then it's just like what we've seen in our society here. Things just start to not work anymore. One of the things that I learned was that you should cut sooner rather than later, because the work has stopped right now, right? The work is not as we know it right now, as we've known it. And so you're not generating the revenue that you need to generate to pay the employees. And the other thing that I learned was be bottom heavy, not top heavy. So, what a lot of small businesses look at is, I've got to keep all of my partners, I've got to keep my senior staff. What they really need to be thinking about is how do you keep the people who are creating the product,
Mm-hmm.
and really right size that senior staff. Because with one salary at the senior staff level, you could probably keep 3 people at the lower staff level.
Mm-hmm.
It's a consideration. I don't know what is right for every business. And, we have a stimulus package right now that's going to give us, if it gets signed today, it'll give us a space of time before we have to make those decisions.
Right. That is something that's different today versus 2008 is this stimulus package buys us time as small employees. If we are in a place where we can ride the next 4 weeks until we get that money, not all businesses are in that position.
They're not. And so whether you lay somebody off, delete the position, whatever, I think you do whatever is best for them so that they can draw unemployment. They can get the most out of the government benefits. But I think that decision has to be made sooner rather than later. Because any money that you spend paying somebody that's not creating revenue for the company is money that you will never get back. And, it's tough, but doing it in the most humane and caring way possible, obviously, and always telling the truth about it. That my goal is to bring this company back. I would love for you to come back if you can. I understand if you can't. You don't just do it in a mass meeting and, it's that would be terrible. But the idea of looking at being bottom heavy instead of top heavy is something that I think small business owners should consider. Because it demands a change in the CEO's focus.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to go do some work, Liza, that you haven't done in a while,
Right.
because you've had a senior manager to do that for you.
Yeah.
But it also gives the people who are newer in the company or at further down the kind of the organizational ladder of the company, it can give them a chance to step up too, when they come back around. And you may be able to save some people, keep more people employed by laying off one senior staff person.
Yeah. It's going to be tough decisions for a lot of business owners out there. And so much of it is going to come down to kind of what I'm hearing you say is how involved is that senior staff person in the day-to-day business? What are they creating? And there are some businesses where they are heavily involved and can carry the workload of 3 people. And there's some that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah. And I've seen some many senior staff people who just they will resist doing the work that they have used to do in the past. They'll just resist it. And
yeah, I think that was yesterday's problem. If they are not willing to step up now, that's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And so you have to be really honest. That's a very tough decision to make because again, it changes your job as the CEO.
Yep.
But this is a crisis. This isn't, ideal. And so I think it's at least worth a consideration.
Yeah. I think that there are a lot of business owners out there that'll appreciate having that perspective and thinking that through because this is going to be a heavy weekend for a lot of people. And again, the stimulus bill buys everyone some time if they have the runway to get to that month in order to buy the time, in order to see what can I pivot my business into, what can I create out of this, and have some clear eyes because I think everyone is in a state of shell shock right now because again, that faucet was on and it turned off so suddenly that everyone is still getting their bearings. Everyone has a lot of clients who are sticking with them, but is their check really going to come?
Exactly. And so denial, part of the stages of grief, it's like my favorite one is denial, this is not happening. It's not happening. It's a blanket, the book Codependency No More calls it the blanket of denial, because it shields us from the pain, of what's really happening. But if you stay there too long, you get stuck, and you just can't get stuck in denial because this crisis is live and it's happening and it's morphing every hour.
Yeah.
And I tend toward action, and so sometimes I make a decision that later I wish I hadn't made. But I'd rather do that than to not make decisions when they need to be made.
I 100% agree. And I kind of lead my life through that, no matter if I'm trying to decide on what sofa to buy, because I'd rather make the decision, have it out of my head, and have bought the sofa that wasn't exactly what I wanted. But it's better to have a decision, make the decision in your company and go down that path, because what you do know is the wrong decision is to not make a decision.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly.
Yeah. All right. So my last question to you, what are your top 3 things every business owner should be looking at right now? So if we were going to kind of take this conversation and other things that you've experienced and said, right now, business owners, these 3 things.
Okay. Number 1, take this opportunity to curate your client base. So it might seem the opposite of what you should do. You might want to think that you want to hang on to every client. But I promise you that there are clients that you have on your client roster that you shouldn't have. And those are the clients that you either don't enjoy working with, or they're not profitable enough, or clients that maybe you've outgrown or they've outgrown you. We certainly had both of those things happen at Paramore Digital during my years running that company. And it's because you need to be more efficient. When you come out on the other side, you want a more efficient company than what you've had. You want to know what your company is and what it's not on the other side of this crisis. So if you really curate your client base, it means looking at it from all those 3 perspectives. Are we still a fit for this client? Are they profitable enough for us? Do we enjoy working with them?
Right.
And get ready to let those clients go. In fact, go ahead and let them go during this time.
Yeah.
So that's tough work to do. We used to do it every year. At the end of every year, where we would plan for the next year, we would look at our client base and go, all right, we sort of had a 10% where we want to curate our client list by 10% every year, and it led us to make some good decisions, and it opens up capacity, not just hours, but mental capacity for the clients that better fit your business and who you can do a better job for. So I would think about that. And then number two, think about, what does this crisis teach you about what you really love doing? So some of you are going to find out that you really love certain types of work that that maybe you had stepped away from, or that you had never leaned into. Because this is a new experience, and we were forced into this experience. It was the only way we were ever going to have it, was to be forced into it. We would never have made this happen on purpose, right?
Right.
So there is a lesson here, and it could be that you see an opportunity, or that you go back to something that you used to do and you're like, this is why I got into this business. Like, this was the core of the business, and I've gotten away from it.
Yeah.
So I think that you can look at what the crisis has to teach you about what you love doing, and see if you can carve out more of your business toward that. It might just be you as the CEO, that you find out that there's something that you really love about managing the business, or something that you had entrusted to somebody else that you really love doing yourself. You feel like you are better to manage that, and find that lesson. And then the third one is to really take advantage of the opportunity to care about people through this. I was talking with Gail Carr Williams yesterday, and David Williams, who was the athletic director at Vanderbilt, was her husband, and he passed about a little over a year ago. And she and I are on a board together. We were talking yesterday because we had our first virtual board meeting for WeGo Public Transit yesterday. We've never been authorized to do that before, but we had to vote on a funding mechanism, and it had to be done, or it would have been out of money, and we couldn't all get together because the government won't let you do that right now. So and she said, I just feel like we've all have been running so fast, and we need to slow our roll for a minute. And we talked about connecting and on a more personal basis, a more personal level with each other. And this is a great opportunity to do that, and to learn that skill, and to learn how, as a business owner, how the decisions that you make personally affect your staff and your clients, and how you can be more humane and more caring. Not that you're not already, but that's something that when we're moving fast, we make more autocratic decisions. And this is a time that we can sort of embrace the fact that this is hurting all of us, and just improve. You can have a great relationship with somebody that you had to let go if you do it the right way.
Yeah.
And you can learn through that professionally.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Again, this is Hannah Paramore Breen, and her book is Business Ownership: The Joy, the Pain, the Truth. You can get that on Amazon. Is there anywhere else that you can get that book right now, Hannah?
Amazon is it.
All right. So it's a good book. And for any business owner out there who wants a book that's not all, not just the rah right now, but hey, I've been there in the trenches too. This is a good book to buy, and it's a quick read. You will enjoy it. It'll just take a few hours, and you'll be better off for it. Thank you, Hannah, for joining us today.
And good luck.
Thank you. Hey, I'll call you right back, okay?
Okay.